Simply Science: Physical Change versus Chemical Change. In this podcast, you will be shown several pictures. It will be up to you to decide if the change you are looking at is a chemical change or a physical change. Before we begin, let's review what you need to ask yourself to figure out if the change you are looking at is a chemical change. Remember to ask yourself these questions. Has there been a color change? Has heat or light been given off? Has a new substance been created? If the answer to any of these questions is yes, it is a chemical change. You can also ask yourself, has there been a change in the state of matter? Can the change be undone? If you said yes to either of these questions, it is a physical change. Are you ready to give it a try? Here we go. Is this a chemical or physical change? Leaves changing color in the fall is an example of a chemical change. Is this a chemical or a physical change? This is an example of a change in the state of matter. Therefore, it is a physical change. Water, whether frozen or liquid, is still water. Is this a physical or chemical change? Crushing a can is an example of a physical change. The chemical property of the can has not been changed. The act of crushing just changes the appearance, in other words, how the can looks. But it is still a can. Is this rust a physical or chemical change? Rust is a chemical change. A new substance, rust, has been formed from the metal of the car. Is this an example of a physical or chemical change? Cutting, folding, or tearing paper are all physical changes. If you cut a piece of paper, you're just making smaller pieces of paper. Is this melting ice cream cone an example of a physical or a chemical change? Melting is a change in the state of matter. Frozen or melted, it is still ice cream. Is this fire an example of a physical or chemical change? This toasty fire is an example of a chemical change. Both heat and light are being given off, and a new substance, ash, is being created. Is slicing an apple a physical or chemical change? Has the chemical property of the apple been changed? Have heat or light been given off? If not, you do not have a chemical change. Cutting an apple only makes smaller pieces of apple. Therefore, it is a physical change. Is this broken rock an example of a physical or chemical change? The breaking of a rock is an example of a physical change. Smaller rocks have been created, but there has been no change in the chemical property of the rock. I hope you've enjoyed the challenge of deciding if the change you were looking at was a chemical or physical change.